Hi there and welcome to this video, which is going to be all about seasonal affective disorder, or SAD. And in this video I'm going to be talking about, first of all, what it is, people that might be more susceptible to it, and then most importantly what you can do if you are managing this in your life and ways in which you can support yourself. So before we get started, my name is Nicola. I'm a yoga teacher, a yoga therapist. I'm also highly sensitive and neurodivergent myself, and I like to really create content. In fact, all of my work really is geared towards people that are looking for more calm, balance and connection in their lives, especially so for those that are more sensitive for whatever reason, and perhaps have been managing things like stress, depression, etc., and perhaps have been having a struggle with their mental health. So in this video today, I'm going to be talking about seasonal affective disorder, as I say. And I think, first of all, the thing to talk about is just what it is. So it's a particular type of depression that happens in the darker months of the year, so autumn and winter, or fall and winter. And it comes along with, those typical depressive feelings. So fatigue, difficulty in concentrating, low mood, feeling sad, quite literally, having lack of motivation, lack of focus, a decreased libido, impact on your appetite, so maybe craving loads of sugar and sweet things, or conversely not wanting to eat at all. It can get so bad that maybe you have suicidal ideation and really feel like you want to exit, so it can be really quite serious. And the jury's a little bit out. There's not concrete evidence, if you like, but it's felt that the lower light levels in the darker months of the year impact brain chemistry, which then has a knock-on effect. And one of the other things that can come along with it is the impact on the circadian rhythm. So the sleep-wake cycle can be all out, which kind of makes sense with the longer nights and the shorter days. And so, as a highly sensitive person, I wanted to highlight that extra sensitive people, particularly if you're very light sensitive, may well be more impacted by this. I have not researched that. That's not based on concrete evidence, but it is my sense from my own personal experience and also working with highly sensitive and neurodivergent people that it tends to come along more frequently. Okay, so important things then. What you can do to support yourself. So these are things that I count as kind of things you can do to support yourself in terms of like a self-care sort of way, rather than, I know there are things like the light boxes and light therapy that you can use, so I'm not going to talk about that, but things you can do in terms of your lifestyle and self-care. First of all, and this has been really important to me, is living seasonally and having an awareness of the seasons. Since I have transitioned through to living in a seasonal way, it's had so many benefits. I have slowed down. I'm more in rhythm with myself. I'm more in rhythm with the world around me. And in some ways, and I don't want this to dismiss, the seriousness of many people's experience of seasonal affective disorder, but in many ways, it's quite logical that we would have less motivation and feel more tired in the darker months of the year, because that's what nature's doing. And if you're someone that's extra sensitive, you are going to be more impacted by your environment. That just goes with having an extra sensitive nervous system. And so when we embrace a seasonal lifestyle, we know that towards the end of summer, we start to kind of gather in what we need. We perhaps start to look at our commitments and wind them down just a little bit. Maybe our self-care turns towards, eating really deeply nourishing food for, the darker months ahead. And going into the autumn and the winter, knowing that it's a different pace, knowing that the energy of the season is more introspective, is more reflective, can help us to just change our practices a little bit, how we support ourselves. So rather than expecting us to be able to keep up with loads of different social engagements and be out there in the world and be really productive at work, if we go into those darker months of the year knowing, actually, this is going to be a quieter time for me, we can be more forgiving with ourselves. We can create those boundaries and those expectations with other people so that, we're set up for success, I guess. And also, when we move into the darker months, as I've said, it's a more introspective time. It's more meditative. It's a really great time to begin a meditation practice, actually. But when we do that, stuff can come up. And the stuff that comes up is usually the stuff that's difficult, that's perhaps been in the background whilst we've been busy during the lighter months of the year, out there in the world doing stuff. It will be the stuff that's been under the surface, maybe past grief or a difficult family situation or something that hasn't been processed as yet. It will rise to the surface. So it's no wonder that these things can come up, which will add to that mix of the light sensitivity. There's also seasonal themes that come up, and grief is one of them, and a starkness if you think about the land during the season of autumn and winter. There is a sense of grief in the natural world. The leaves have been dropped, the plants are largely a bit lackluster. Many more people pass away during the autumn and winter than they do in the rest of the year. So there is that in the air anyway, whether it's an actual physical loss that you've had, or, two very significant deaths I've had recently in my life have been in the autumn and winter. And so that theme is on the ground. There's also a sense that when we live seasonally, we end up getting into greater harmony and routine with what's going on around us. We shift our own self-care routines. Perhaps our daily walk changes to mark the passing of the season. And so what that does is it gives us a connection to the land. And when we connect to the land, we are reminded continually of the change and transition, which I feel brings a sense of hope, or that feeling of, okay, today this has changed. So I know we're moving closer to the lighter months again. Not that it's about rushing through. I guess it's about having that greater awareness that we are part of nature and we're part of a bigger cycle, that constant cycle of birth, life, death, and it just keeps going round and round and round. Again, this is not to dismiss those big feelings that seasonal affective disorder can bring, but it's one way of just slightly bringing in a wider perspective or a different perspective that can help us move through that time with a little bit more ease. So the second thing I'm going to talk about is obviously yoga. I'm going to talk about yoga. Any form of movement really, but I'm going to talk specifically about yoga because it has a magical formula. So first of all, just the movement element boosts mood and energy, that release of endorphins, which of course you can get from any other movement practices. Personally, I practice a seasonal yoga practice which adapts to the season, and movement is really important during the darker months. It's important to get a balance between movement that lifts you and boosts you and movement that depletes you. And so again, that seasonal element comes in. So for example, during the autumn, a practice of yoga that is nourishing to the digestive system, that helps you to ground, that helps you find calm and quiet, really finds that balance between movement and almost like a stillness or a more mindful quality to it. So as I say, yoga is going to help to boost mood and your energy. It also helps to just regulate your system. So this time of the year, as we go into the darker months, circadian rhythms, our digestive rhythms, they can all get a little bit out of sync if we're not careful. And so a practice of yoga, particularly if it's consistent and regular, will help to regulate particularly your sleep. Often I have this when people come to my classes, they will say to me, I always sleep so much better on yoga night. There's no fluke. There's so much information on this, but very briefly, yoga really helps us to de-stress the body and the mind so that we can rest more deeply when we do actually go to sleep. And that's going to be really important with seasonal affective disorder, because one of the things is this disruption to our sleep-wake cycle, which can, contribute to those feelings. And also, yoga connects us to our body. It also helps us to quieten our mind. So we are much more connected to ourselves. And when we're connected to ourselves, we're able to quieten the mind a little bit. We're able just to be in that place of quietness, so the quieter times of the year with a little bit more ease. Okay, so the third and final one, which kind of piggybacks on all of them really is mindfulness. So a practice of mindfulness is essentially bringing your attention into the present moment on purpose, without judgment, just being with that moment, and perhaps with a sense of curiosity as well. And mindfulness has been shown time and time again to reduce stress and anxiety, but I think the key thing with mindfulness, for me anyway, is it really helps you to kind of gain mastery of yourself and your emotions, and help you to ride those big emotions with more resilience. It's definitely not easy, but there's a sense that that you can do it. There's a feeling of confidence in being able to navigate them. It's almost like in mindfulness, we get comfortable with being with a difficult emotion, and we can see maybe the connection to where that feeling may have came from. And really importantly, it helps us to experience it with compassion for ourselves. And when we offer compassion to ourselves, it makes everything so much easier, because if you've got your own back, then you can face anything. And then finally, with mindfulness, it can really help us to cultivate gratitude. And again, there's loads of studies on how a gratitude practice is really helpful for a multitude of things. But within the experience of seasonal affective disorder, when we feel at our lowest ebb, when it can feel really hard to be grateful for things, by practicing and having a consistent practice of mindfulness within our everyday life as well as a formal practice, we can have those feelings. We can see the impact that the light levels or the shift in the season is having on us, but at our core we can go, actually, I'm really grateful today that I have a home, or I'm able to have a hot shower, or whatever those small things are. It can really help us just to step back and find joy in the simple things, even if it's the depths of winter and it feels like we haven't seen the sun in ages. Okay, so they're my 3 suggestions of how to support yourself with seasonal affective disorder or SAD. That's not to say that it's not easy, and of course if you're really struggling, then please get in touch with a professional or a trusted friend, because it's really important that we don't suffer alone. Really, really important. And if you've got any suggestions, any other suggestions, something that's really helped you boost your mood or lift you when you've been feeling at your very, very lowest ebb, please share it in the comments below, because it will help anyone who's listening or watching this video who likely has a vested interest in it. So that's all from me today on this topic. Again, it really helps the channel if you like this video, subscribe to my channel, and maybe even share it with somebody who's feeling the need to support themselves at this time of the year. Okay, thanks once again, and I will see you on the next one.